Hello, everyone. This is Elijah Ignatieff of the School of Conscious Communication, Planetary Guardians, New Paradigm Toolkit, Inflow Matrix, a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm here with
and
master
and and
storyteller, William Graham Stewart from over in England, I think, right now, who's just in the middle of a storytelling jamboree, and he's going to report on what is happening. Is that true?
well, we're near the end of the jamboree, and it's been quite a journey. Yeah, and near me, I have this amazing book. It's called Tales of Supernatural Powers.
Ah,
55 traditional stories from around the world by Senget Viragvalka. Here we go.
very nice.
I've also got this book, which is The Old Grey Magician, which is a Scottish legend from the Finn cycle, which is Finn McCool and the Fianna. So I'm embodying this chap.
Very nice.
So much so that I'm painting my nails. I've got gold and silver on my nails. Yeah, the I would say that the thing I've learned the most is how powerful story is, and what is a story, particularly like myths and legends from our ancestors way, way back, and how they affect your psyche and how they affect relations between people and the land and so on, and how the land here in this place is feeding us. So there are 21 of us left. Three have left, three men. We started off with 17 women, 7 men, and 3 men have gone. So now we're down to 4 men supporting um, yeah, the energy of 17 women who are telling stories ranging from rape, suicide, euthanasia, patriarchy, you name it. I mean, very powerful women talking about the history of Jerusalem, Arab war, all of that cauldron of intensity. We've got one young woman who is working with her lineage of the Black Widow spider from the tarantula network and the galaxy. This kind of stuff, normal everyday kind of thing. So living inside this network of relations is fascinating. Um, yeah, yeah.
And what's your place in it? Like, how did you come to that book?
Well, my role is I'm one of the things that from this course is they try to they suggest to us that we think as little as possible, and that we just be guided by imagination and intuition, and then the insights come. And so we're dreaming things. A lot of us have dreamt about each other. I'm now on campus. I was off campus, so there's 3 different buildings. Each building, well, 2 buildings are octagonal, and this one I'm in is called Oak Tree, and I'm in the room that one of my colleagues was in, who left. He works with tantra and sensuality and male groups, so he's left, gone to Italy. So I'm now here, and I guess one of my roles is to keep the soul group together and to look after anyone who wants to be looked after, really. So I've got a car and I drive around. I take people places. I make sure they get to the supermarket and pick them up to the train station, that kind of stuff. Gather the money in to do things, all that kind of stuff. And we've got 4 men. There's me, there's Siddhartha, who's from India, from Delhi, who's a beautiful soul. He is telling wonderful stories about the vulnerability of being a male, being a man, sexuality, things like that. We have Darren, who's in his 50s, who's Bayer Medicine. He's talking about sustainability and the future of planet for his children and their children. And the other male is Lucas, who's from Brazil, who is working with water energy and a lovely, lovely comment about him being a child saying to his daddy, "Daddy, I think I'm mean." He just goes to his childhood stories of you know he's so beautiful and saintly, and at the same time he's got this devilish streak in him. So it's really interesting that the males, and I'm going back into my female dragon energy very strongly. And so one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, Elijah, I've got Fleming in half an hour, who is also a dragon, and Tex Smith is hanging out in New Zealand. If you want to join, you're more than welcome.
Mm.
And my question that I'm living with, because my story is on Saturday and I haven't got the ending yet, because the ending of my story takes place at the center of the earth, where my main character, Angus, who is from a poem by Yeats, when he was in his most esoteric phase. Yeats was he was a member of the Golden Dawn, Crowley and all that lot. He actually lived in this area. He lived up the road for 3 years with Ezra Pound, the poet. And they thought about the role of fantasy and imagination. Also in this town is where C.S. Lewis was inspired to write the Narnia Chronicles. And Aslan, there's a spring here that's a lion that's up the road. So we've got all the history here. And my teacher gave me the book. He said, read this, The Last Battle of the Narnia Chronicles, where Aslan comes back. So there's a lot of myth, a lot of that weaving into our psyche and our dream and how we speak and relate to each other. A lot of shamanic drumming, a lot of crying, a lot of emotion. And I'm taking on a story which is coming to me. It's not, I didn't think about it, it just sort of started coming. And I'm looking for an ending where the main character meets his doppelganger in the form of an android with superior AI. And the two of them have to make their case to Gaia as to which of them should live. So I've got to embody the machine. I've got to embody the android and become that. And I basically have to, without emotion, tell the audience, you, humanity, this is where you're at. Either you follow our lead or we will kill you. Goodbye. And then Angus, being the human, he's got 1 minute to present a case to Gaia as to why humans should live on. And I'm struggling with what he should say. And then after that, once it's been said, I'm not going to say what Gaia decides. But the main idea is that somehow mycelium comes up out of the earth and Angus walks free, and he's learned something through his initiation. And on the way, the journey, he meets the old grey magician, who is a Scottish legend and who apparently was real in the 12th century, and he taught the Pope esoteric science. So I'm embodying this guy, and he worked with a rowan wand, and I'm looking for a rowan tree to find searching for a rowan tree to get a wand to actually make one. And then on my throat, I've put this is the Ogham, this is the Anglo-Saxon shamanism, and that is a symbol for the rowan tree, which represents transformation. So yeah, it's full on, and I'm struggling with the ending, because when I've told the story to the group, the main teacher's like, Graham, this is like full on, and you're maintaining an intensity of 30 minutes, which is like, and it's a huge thing you're asking the audience to take on, the future of humanity in the face of the exponential advancement of AI technology. And a lot of people are scared by it, and you're embodying that power. And so how do you take us to a place where we can reach a plateau where we can think about the questions calmly without being scared? And I'm saying, well, I think we should be scared, and yet at the same time find a way to love AI, love the machine. And so basically I've been talking to people here about that, about how do you feel? And Roy, who's the main teacher, he's told me he was so excited about me carrying this story, because he's saying Google have decided that they're going to call their AI system Bard, B-A-R-D, Bard, and that made his stomach churn, because the bardic tradition, the oral telling, the indigenous cultures, the bard is the storyteller. Weaves the magic and tells the stories of the ancestors, and if machines are now going to take that over, and tell their story. What is that about? So he wants me to have a bard off where I basically take on the machine and humanity has to win. And I'm saying, well, does it? Why can't we find a way to love the machines and meld with them? Or yeah, so there's a lot of people here who are very, it's a very powerful place here. They're saying, some say, yeah, we're inevitably going to merge with machines, become cyborgs. We're already on the way. Others are saying, no, we must fight for humanity. And I'm saying, okay, what does it mean then to be human? What is it that's essentially human that says we should live on despite all the genocide, raping of women, destruction of everything? Why should we live on? Why the machines can't do differently? So that's where I'm at, Elijah. And I'll be talking with Fleming and Dave and Tex Smith at midnight if you're still around. You want to join and looking at this question. Yeah,
Something
that's where I'm
popped
at.
in. I don't know if you want suggestions or feedback.
No, I do want suggestions and feedback. It's exactly what I want. It's a
Okay.
collective effort. I don't think this is about me. This is about me holding a space for images and ideas that emerge from the collective.
Because something did pop in, and you're thinking, okay, that he's only got a minute, and then to me, it's like you're embodying, let's say both, you're embodying something. So it's almost like we have the superpower of bringing in all the humans or any human we want in that moment. Let's say, right? Let's say Angus accesses some collective power, and so
Yeah, I'm gonna. Mhm.
and who comes through is actually the little prince.
Machiavelli's print.
Yeah,
No, Antoine Exupéry.
Antoine.
Yeah.
And so like he's sort of on his own quest. And so let's say at the end of his own, he pops up there. And that's the real reason he was looking to sort of find out what he found. And he gives the sort of the iconic answer of, let's say, emerging of the soul in some manner where different life forms have to respect each other in some manner. And so some sort of mediation happens, maybe that no one saw before, kind of like what you're saying, right? Where there's the AI actually has a more peaceful intent because the AI has been through this before and understands that it's lacking something that the biology has. And that just because it could get more powerful, it's like humans getting more power. Just because you get more powerful doesn't mean your ethics catch up, and at some point you'll destroy yourself. And so,
well, there's a question of, like, Rui's main thing is that love must win, and that whatever comes at you, whether it's a machine or a madman or whatever, you love it, and that's it. So he's saying that he thinks that I should say that I offer to the machine, will you let me love you? But there's also this question of the storyteller's job is not to provide answers, it's to ask the question and to hold the story, to give people that freedom, because this place is all about freedom. That's what Steiner was about, and this college was founded on Rudolf Steiner's philosophy. So, and Rudolf Steiner himself said that the war with the machines is 8000 AD. And I've spoken to others who say, well, I think he might have got it wrong, and it's sooner than we think. But then I'm saying, well, I think it's a war against ourselves, because these are children of our imagination, and in fact, it's, again, we can go as wide and as far as we want, and go the Kevin Kelly way, where he says that the technium is like a species, an alien species that's arrived here on Earth and training us to remember what it means to be human, and all the AI is just training wheels, and it will just disappear once we've returned to the mycelium, biological, highly advanced ways of knowing and ways of being in the world. And I feel very alone here because I can't engage with anybody at the level that I want to engage at. So I'm left with people doing stories about, well, whatever. But it's like Yes, I'm calling on my international network of freaks.
Well, kind of like your other story, you're you're packing a wallop, so to speak. Like I could see how it is the essential question to our species at this time. And we need to, like, we're running out of time, let's say, in terms of there doesn't seem to be that stoppage. And once it goes, it's going to go.
Well, what does that mean though? I mean, there's a
Well,
guy who the ex-Google guy who wrote in the Time magazine saying, "I'm sorry, we should have stopped this well before, and it's out of control. We can't stop it."
yeah,
But then I feel it's not one person's responsibility, and in a way, it's rather arrogant to assume that it was him. There's a lot more besides, beginning. And one of the things is there's some women in this course who work very deeply with the womb, which is amazing. Like the stories that are held in the ancestral womb of women, because they've got the power to give life and the blood, and how the river of Styx is actually the blood flow, and how men have violated the stories of women throughout millennium, and how do we then, as men, acknowledge that and relate to that when there's so much rage in these women who are bringing up the mythological idea that dragon's blood is the petrol, is the diesel. Dragon's blood is the carbon of the trees, basically, and the language of the trees, and how we're walking trees. So it's and then you've got, what is carbon-based consciousness and silicon-based consciousness. These are two different um, types of consciousness, and I feel we're moving. Well, I sense moving into more galactic consciousness, as it were. So we've got solar consciousness, which was Christ. Christ was solar consciousness. That was 2,000 years ago. Now we're moving into galactic consciousness. What does that mean to go beyond these limitations of ideation and explanation of what it means to be human? So we're redefining what it means to be human.
mm. Are you allowed to put music to your story?
The idea is that this place is very fundamentally based on the voice, the human voice, and live music. So nothing recorded, which I like. And it's very organic. That's the idea. So I'm playing a harmonium. I don't know if you know what a harmonium is. It's this beautiful machine that you pull, and it's a bellows, and it creates this droning noise. So I'm speaking a poem to Guy at the beginning, and I end with that. And Angus, the main character, is going through an initiation of 3 tests. The first being to follow his intuition and just go with it and connect with the ancestors. The second is to go beyond his belief system. And the third is to understand and explain what it really means to be alive and human.
Mm.
And it's called Legend of the Lost Story because he thought he lost his soul, but actually he's lost his story. And it's time to weave a new one. And he's got a womb. And this is one thing some of the women are excited about, that as a man, I'm naming the fact that as a man, I have a womb. It may not be a physical organ, but I do have a womb, as do all men, that they somehow absorbed from the mother when they were giving birth. They came out of the womb, and the stories that were in the womb, in the lining of the womb, from the ancestors and the grandmothers, that is alive in us, but we don't know how to tell it because we're not women. We don't have a physical womb, so we have to somehow access a different kind of energy to whatever.
You layer in the significance. Can I ask you maybe a question that maybe should be answered? I don't know. Why did the
Mhm.
men leave?
Why do?
Why did the men leave?
Yeah, good question. I won't name them, but the first man is Singaporean and was struggling with his relationship with Allah. and also his relationship with the group, because as a man in a Muslim country, he wasn't relating well to the group, and he was always on the outside. And actually, his struggle supported the group to form. So he had a very powerful role to play, but eventually lost his mind and had to leave. Um, and then the second guy, beautiful soul from the US of A, Turtle Island, who his body could not take the intensity of this place and the land and the wetness and the rain and the cold, and he had to go back to dry climate. And the third guy is he got an offer to work in Italy that he couldn't refuse, so he didn't finish the course. And for me, this is an initiation. This whole thing, it's an initiation, and those who stay to the very end, those are the kind of people that are configuring into a soul group and can work together. Because we've got some amazing people here, Elijah, who, one woman is working with Palestine, Jerusalem. Another woman is working with the Old Testament stories of, the ancient Old Testament stories. Another woman is working with, she was born into fire, and she's saying, I am beautiful, I'm a woman, I'm on fire. I am beautiful when I'm on fire. And then we've got another woman who I adore, who is looking at her lineage of ghosts and monsters from her childhood that were trying to speak to her and be released. And she's releasing these monsters through her womb and her concepts called the Womb Lab, which works at deep archetypes. It's really extraordinary. And we've been told by the teachers saying we've never had a group like this that is going this deep and dreaming together and imagining together and then speaking out these stories. Yeah.
I knew that was going to be quite the experience. This even seems stronger. I mean, again, you're just hitting the nail on the head with the proverbial big hammer.
Yeah, it's like, and this whole Rudolf Steiner was an extraordinary human being, and his whole question with anthroposophy is the love of the human being, and what does it mean to be human? What is the human being? What can we do? And this is revisiting this question day after day after day. So it's this land here as well. I mean, the legend is that this is a Grail castle on a spiritual level, and there are beings in this place that are just supporting the stories to evolve and come out. And we've been observed by others, teachers coming in and saying, wow, you guys are extraordinary, and you're creating this mycelial network between you, dreaming together, eating together, talking together, laughing, crying. And it's very, it's a gorgeous process.
Do you see it as the launch pad for you coming out? Because I know that you're pretty open towards where you think.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we had this lovely session last Friday where we sat in two circles of 10, and we sat facing outwards, and people would come up to us and whisper in our ears appreciation for who we are. And a dear friend here, one of the males, who's the bear guy, he says, it's taken you 50 years, Graham, but you are the storyteller. You embody the storyteller. A storyteller is being born, and I need to carry this ancient future bard, this time-traveling bard that basically can access all realms and speaks it out. And we work a lot with the ancient Hebrew of Evra Kadevra, which is like I create as I speak. In the beginning was the Word, the Word was with God, and the Word was, that whole sense of as you tell a story has a powerful effect in the psyche and the unconscious. So, it's a privilege, really.
Are they going to record the storytellings?
Some people are being recorded. I've said I don't want to be recorded. I want to be invited to tell live. So one of the women here has got a strong connection with Canada and the US, and I want to come there and wear my kilt, do my thing. I've been invited to India, Australia, the whole of Europe, just to do I think I'm going to form a company called Wondercraft. The craft of wonder and awe and experiences. So we've got some real like crones witches in this group, and we've got a woman who's just an amazing poet who is looking at her because she's like she's not going to be a mother, so she's like, if I'm not a mother and I'm a woman, who am I? What is my worth if I'm not a mother? And then she goes into the crone, and it's just stunning what's happening. It's deeply emotional for the women because they're all crying about this, meeting the crone, the maiden, the mother of the crone. Yeah, yeah.
So what's this next call? Who are those two guys? And what's you're going to do?
You know Fleming, don't you? Do you know Fleming? No.
I've heard of them through you, but I don't know.
Well, I think it'd be great if you came on the call, and Tex in New Zealand. No. Well, Fleming is in Toulouse, and Fleming is, for me, another dragon. He and I have known each other for a very long time, and Fleming is one of the most solid kind of internet folk who's been around for a long time, and he does time travel parties in his farm in France. Tex is actually, I think he's an official wizard in New Zealand. They have official, and he wants to do stuff with kids.
Hmm.
I'm drinking Casero del Diablo wine, which Fleming knows, and my incense is black opium that I'm spraying around the place. And yeah.
When is that call?
It's in 5 minutes, and you're more than welcome to join.
Okay, so I just have something to do. Why don't we call this off, and then you're going to send
Let's
me
call this off. Thank you, Elijah, and I'll talk to Fleming and text and say, I'll send you a link to say to come and join in.
Okay. So
Nice
thanks
one.
for that great download. I'm sure everyone is very excited to hear about it. And if anyone's watching, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next session.